during the lockdown, we read, there was a book already on the shelf that a lot of people didn't want to touch, and because it was about knitting. And so during the lockdown, we started to get backed up on books, and we never stopped in the lockdown. We set up people at home. We have close to, even now, we have close to 100 volunteers at home that get set up to record. They send it in through Dropbox, we download it. And so there were a couple of knitting books on how to knit, and it's basically just like regular commands, so a blind person could understand it and do it. So these were big books too, like 400 pages each. And there's a lot of acronyms that go along with it. And I knew nothing about it. I looked up all the acronyms and I read it. And she called back later. She was happy. Our executive director, she asked me, she said, so what did you learn about knitting? I said, I learned I'll never do it.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spotlight Houston, where we bring you the best of the people, places, and events in Houston. This week we sit down with Jim Martinez, radio manager of Sight into Sound, to talk about the many services they offer the visually impaired. From radio shows to movie hours, they have many options for those in the Houston area. And now, thanks to streaming and podcasting, their reach is limitless. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and learn more about this great nonprofit organization. And now your host, Blanca Quesada.
Hi, and welcome to Spotlight Houston. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to navigate this world if you were visually impaired or had some type of learning disability? I can't even imagine how difficult it must be. So there are many reasons why people might have sight impairment. It could be due to an accident, illness, or maybe they were just born with this problem. But anyway, it happens and it's there and they need our help. But I have a great organization here that is doing a fantastic job. They provide a unique service. And so, in order for us to better understand how sight impaired people can get current information or just maybe enjoy a good book and so much more, with me today is Jim Martinez. He's the radio manager for Sight into Sound to let us know how this nonprofit organization helps out. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I know that this organization has been a part of our community for a very long time, but it used to be under another name, of course. Would you give us a little bit of its history?
It started in 1967, Taping for the Blind. That was the name of it. It started out, a man who lived, from what I was told, a man who lived down the street from him was a college kid going to college. He was in his late 60s, so there was no accessibility like it is now. And he got accepted to college, but he was blind, completely blind. So the man down the street, he said, I'll read a book for you, one of your textbooks. And then he liked doing that, and he read another one and another one. So he got the ideas and got some of his friends together so why don't we do this, create a nonprofit, something like this. And so that's how that started. And there were a couple other organizations in the country that were already doing this, but it wasn't that many. And then so they slowly got more and more throughout the country to start doing this, where you would have volunteers come in to read. And at that time, it was for the Library of Congress, which is now called the National Library Service. Same thing. But so they would read books, and then they would send the books to Washington, D.C., and you would keep them there. And so someone requested a book, those tapes on reel to reel, if you remember those, would be sent to that person. And it was all done by volunteers, and they did it. They did it up until the 80s, and then they stopped doing that because there was more satellite services around the country. And they weren't just relying on us. So that's when we started doing custom recording, which is what we still do. It's for individual clients. We read anything that's requested to be read that's not already available for anyone else, from someone else rather. So we have volunteers who read that. We read textbooks, instruction manuals, cookbooks. Last year, not this Christmas, but the previous Christmas, we had a man who got an air fryer for Christmas. And he had 2 recipe books. And he says, I don't know what, I get hungry like everyone else have to. So we read the recipe books. There's 600 recipes. So we sent it out to him. And
wow.
And every time the volunteer would read it, he goes, I'm hungry, I'm going to lunch. Every time they would come in and read it. And so stuff like that. We do a lot of Sunday school stuff because it's not available on audio. or just anything. And you don't have to be vision impaired. You might have a learning disability. You can see just fine.
Yeah.
You need to hear it in order to absorb it and understand it. So you qualify for our service as well
Yeah.
if you have any kind of learning disability.
Yeah. I heard you learned how to knit.
Yeah, during the lockdown, we read. There was a book already on the shelf that a lot of people didn't want to touch, and because it was about knitting. And so during the lockdown, we started to get backed up on books, and we never stopped in lockdown. We set up people at home. We have close to, even now, we have close to 100 volunteers at home that get set up to record. They send it in through Dropbox. We download it. And so there were a couple of knitting books on how to knit, and it's basically just like regular commands. So a blind person could understand it and do it. So these were big books too, like 400 pages each. And there's a lot of acronyms that go along with it. And I knew nothing about it. I looked up all the acronyms and I read it. And she called back later. She was happy. Our executive director, she asked me, she said, so what did you learn about knitting? I said, I learned I'll never do it. So yeah, no, I learned a lot. I read some health books, like dietary books, how to lose weight, that kind of things.
So it's great to be a volunteer then because you get to learn a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You would read stuff you would never think of reading or want to read. But it's okay, I'll read that. And they'll start educating themselves more on that.
So how does somebody that needs this type of help, how do they sign up? Do they call? What's the requirements?
Yeah, the best thing is to call. I can give you that number out now if you'd like.
Sure.
The number is 713-622-2767. And I'll probably be the one answering the phone, but you call and what you take. So all of our readings are done by volunteers, either in our studios or you can do it at home. Because almost every other person has a little setup now at home, whether it's audio or video. You call in, we'll talk. It helps if you read on your own time, like just for leisure, because you're used to reading, you like reading. It helps to like reading. So you come in and you'll do an audition, a little voice test, and it's just to see how we just gauge your pacing, how fluid you are in reading something. I tell people, we're not looking for voice actors, but we don't want you to be monotone either. Just don't be boring. That's the main. No one likes boring.
Mm-hmm.
So normal pauses in between sentences and paragraphs. And I always say, don't do that dramatic 5-second pause, because no one likes that or gets what you're doing. Just normal reading as if you're reading to one person, which you are if you're reading a book. And then, like I said, you have to like reading out loud as well. And when you do read, you'll be by yourself. There's no one standing over you. It's not like you're in the fourth grade again. Everyone's staring at you at the front of the class. So yeah, you do that. And then we'll take it from there. We'll assign you a book. Or if you like reading about a certain topic, let us know. Then okay, because whatever you read about, it comes out in your voice. So if you're passionate about something, let's say you're passionate about cooking, read these cookbooks, your eyes light up. Okay, I'll do it. And it comes out in your voice.
What if you can't pronounce a word?
We help you. I've been there a long time. We got the cell phones now. So we can look it up easily on cell phone or YouTube. We still have those big dictionaries, those 1,000-page dictionaries. We still have those. And then, but mainly we'll go over it and we'll look it up. And so if there's a hard word that's hard to pronounce, and I would say, okay, even if you say it wrong, say that wrong all the way through because it's consistent. And the person listening don't know what you're talking about anyway. So it's not like you're taking a class in something where, the person, they want that to be read and they know what you're talking about.
So you can edit as well.
Mm-hmm. What we do is you come in, all of our recording booths are networked together, so they all have the same software, the same computer, the same microphone. So I tell people, if you learn one booth, you learn them all. So you can come into any booth. Well, of course, everyone has their favorites when they come in, but it's all the same. And we show you how to edit, how to record, how to edit your own programs, your readings. And it's easy, it's self-explanatory. And as you, like with anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah. So how many studios do you have?
We have 9. At one point we have 15, and then they slowly dwindled down because people are recording from home. And we have a 10th one. That's in my production area, but if we ever need, we can always put someone there. But yeah, on a busy day, we'll have 7-8 people all at once coming in, usually in the mornings.
Can people do their recording from home?
Yeah. So we have a lot. So during the lockdown, we had to switch quickly, like everyone else did. We got everyone set up at home. And we said, okay, everyone come back, which was a couple of years ago. A lot of people said, no, I like staying at home. I like reading. I had one volunteer, she says, I like reading at home because I babysit my grandkids. And when they take a nap, I read for you guys. So basically she reads every day.
So do you provide the equipment or do they have to go out and purchase it?
They get their own. They have their own computer, and I send them things on how to. Usually a YouTube link on how to get software. Softwares are free. A lot of the recording software are free,
Yeah.
and what microphone to use or any kind that's similar. And I always say, as long as it's quiet in the background, that's the main thing. You don't want a crying baby in the background or a barking dog or the lawnmower going, things like that. So
Yeah. So how long are they required to read? If you're reading this really good book, do you have to read 2 or 3 chapters of it? Do you do an hour reading or 2
and so
hours? How long?
yeah, so if you're coming in, usually if you only do it once a week, that's fine. So it usually takes about a couple of hours. So if you plan to read, okay, I'm going to read the text for an hour. I tell them double your time. So because you're stopping, you're editing. So if you're going to read an hour's worth of programming or readings, it'll take you 2 hours to do because you're stopping and stopping. Or you might take a break. Your phone might ring. I said, if you want to only do 30 minutes, it's going to take you an hour to do. I always say just double your time.
Yeah. So you can plan to be in the studio maybe about 3, 4 hours maybe?
Yeah. Again, it depends on your schedule. Like anything else, you'll make it a part of your routine, your weekly routine. So like I can fit these guys in 2.5 hours. Let me go over there instead of just going home and do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand that y'all also have a podcast?
Yeah. We're also a radio station for the blind. We have a daily schedule and a weekly schedule. So in other words, every Monday we hear the same programming. Every Tuesday, same programming. Think of it like a TV schedule. Every day at 12 noon, we read the Houston Chronicle from 12 to 2. That we do the Wall Street Journal at 10 a.m. That's Monday through Friday. The Chronicle is 7 days a week. And we read grocery ads. We read all the local stores, H-E-B, Randall's, Kroger, Fiesta. Fiesta's our most popular. We get the most requests for that. I've even seen some of our clients, blind, low vision clients at Fiesta. Hey, I know you. So it's great. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, so they're listening, and I can tell. So we read the grocery ads. We also read Walgreens and Target. And then we read all the major magazines like National Geographic and Time and People and Sports Illustrated. And again, that's all done by
Mhm.
volunteers. We have 2 book hours a day, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. And that's a 1-hour episodic, Monday through Friday. And when the book is done, we air another book. So that's done. And that's more flexible.
Do you show the schedule?
Yeah, it's at our
Excuse
website.
me. Do you show the schedule on your website?
Yeah, it's at our website, sightinthesound.org. And then we read the schedule as well. We have like every 3 or 4 hours we'll tell you what's coming up for the next
Mhm.
4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, that way people can be prepared or
Mhm.
they know when to listen to what it is they're
Yeah,
interested in. So where on the station on the radio can we dial into to listen to the readings?
there's several ways. We've always been back before the internet during the dark ages. We were niche programming, so we would send radios that only picked up our station. So we get that radio, turn it on, and you hear us and only us. When streaming happened, it just exploded. We no longer send out those radios. You can hear us. We've been on for a while. We've been on channel 8.5 on TV. So if you have a TV that does not have cable, just the regular Houston channels, for channel 8.5, you'll see a black screen, but you'll hear us. That's one way to hear us. Another way to hear us is if you have HD radio in your car, we're HD4 on 88.7. And you can hear us
Mhm.
there. And then we're on the smart speakers, the Alexa. Alexa is very popular in the blind, visually impaired
Oh,
community.
that's great.
Yeah, so those smart speakers are very popular because a blind person doesn't have to wait on their family member. Tell me this, tell me that. They can just ask Alexa. Alexa, what's the
Yeah.
weather? What's the weather for today? Houston, Texas.
Yeah, and right now the weather is always important in Houston because we never know what kind of day we're going to
Yeah, I
get.
know. Yeah, so
It can be super hot one day and very cold the
exactly,
next.
exactly.
So
So
yeah,
that's
that's really important.
so real popular on that. Or you can just go to our website, sightinthesound.org, click on the link that says to tune in now. And several people have told me they put us on their Bluetooth speaker, and some of them go to sleep with it. And when you go to sleep with the radio on, so leave us on. There's several ways to hear us. And plus, also at our website, we're podcasting most
Hmm.
of the programs. So if you miss your favorite program, 7 o'clock on Monday, that's fine. You can listen to it
Hmm.
anytime. So
Hmm. Can people make a request on what they would like read?
Yeah, for the our regular programming, yeah, they can say, "Have you ever thought about reading this magazine or that magazine?" Oh, yeah, we take requests on that, and same thing with the custom recording.
Mm-hmm.
That's all by request. That's whatever we get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those daily devotional books, 60-day devotional
Mm-hmm.
books. We read a lot of those, or
Mm-hmm.
100-day devotional books, whatever they are. We read a lot of those, and then
Mm-hmm.
so that's whatever's requested to be read for that. And plus, yeah, we always take requests, so to speak. The
Mm-hmm.
big thing now is accessible technology. So we have programming podcasts for how to use your how to use your smart speaker, how to use your phone, all the smart devices, how to use that, and that's usually hosted by a blind person, so that they can understand their perspective on what they're talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very popular now.
Yeah. Have you ever created like a book club?
We had a book club meeting. It was a blind book club meeting several years ago, so maybe 8, 9 years ago. They would come in once a month and talk about the book. And then, but that kind of dissolved. And I think they restarted, but they restarted it at someone's house. That's been several years ago. And then, or we found some of our volunteers, they belong to their own book club, and they'll mention what they do at the book club meeting. And then we'll get volunteers from there.
And I know that the reader probably gets very close to the listener. So do they create some kind of friendship
It depends.
from
We,
being together so often?
no, yeah, because most of our listeners, they'll call in if they like something. There's not that much of usually on the custom recording side, someone will say, "I really like that person who read that book. Can they read the next book that I send in?" I said, "Sure." It becomes like that. Every now and then they'll talk, and usually we still get a lot of handwritten notes in the mail saying,
Mm-hmm.
"So and so that read my book. Thank you. Means a lot."
Mm-hmm.
And then every now and then they'll talk, and the readers just very grateful that their
Mm-hmm.
work means something. We're seeing
Mm-hmm.
the result of it.
What's been the most popular book or magazine that they've requested?
The most popular still is the Chronicle and the grocery ads and the book hour. People like consistency. So every day at 11 a.m., they like hearing that book, whatever it is, 11 p.m. So just
Mm-hmm.
that consistency there,
Mm-hmm.
it's always there.
Yeah. Do you ever do like custom reading, like for example, for some of the theaters, like the Alley Theater or maybe the ballet or something like that?
Yeah, so we do audio description. We did it several years for Alley, and we still do it for Miller Outdoor Theater. And we did Hobby, but Hobby does it on their own now. And I think Alley does some of it on their own. And they understood. We trained their their people to do it. They figured it out over the years, so they do it on their own. They offer that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
We do it for the rodeo. We do 3 rodeo performances. We also do the rodeo parade. So what we do the audio description. So audio description is when there's no dialogue. A blind person doesn't know what's going on. So at a play or at a movie, so we describe the action that's going on when there's no dialogue.
Oh,
So that's audio.
and that's
That's what.
coming up soon.
Yeah, the rodeo's coming up. They're already sent out the invitations. The rodeo has to all the nonprofits want to be a part of it. Yeah,
Do you need more volunteers?
no. For that, no, that's already taken care of. But yeah, so no, we're fine with that. Once people do that, they're like, okay, I get to go to
Mm-hmm.
the rodeo. I'm gonna stick with it. So that's audio description. We also have 2 audio described movies, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. So a lot of pretty much every major release now has audio description on it, on the DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm able to access those. And so I air a Saturday night movie and a Sunday afternoon. So
Mm-hmm.
we do like a weekly trailer, a movie trailer, but it's an
Mm-hmm.
audio for the week to let people know what's coming up for that Saturday or Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a little intro and outro because you can't just air the movie. You have to explain what you're about to hear. You have to promote
Right.
it as well. So we have the intro.
All the action, right?
Yeah. So then we do the usual. Now your feature presentation, whatever the movie is, and then the movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a couple of people tell me, said I'm glad I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and movies, and I've had a couple of people tell me, yeah, I get my popcorn and Coke ready, and I listen to the movie. That movie that people were talking about 6 months ago. it now comes up in
Yeah.
audio description. I get to hear it, you know.
That is great. That is
So they
great.
they feel
It,
a part of it. They're no longer on the outside.
yeah, I love your organization because, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's very unique and you always have a great positive impact for a lot of people. For a lot of people.
Thank you.
And do you provide your services for free?
Yeah, all of our services are free, even the books. So for the books, we want them to be read. You provide the book, and then we read it, and then we'll send you the book back, and then you'll get it on CD, or we can Dropbox the links to you,
Hmm.
or we can do both. Yeah, most people now
Oh, okay.
like most people now like the downloading part where they just put it on their phone or their computer.
Mm-hmm.
But we still do CDs, but not as much as we used
Hmm.
to. But we don't have a problem. Like I said, we can do both.
Yeah, and like any great organization, of course, you need funding to be able to provide this for so many people.
Mhm.
Are you doing any special events? How do you ask for donations?
Yeah, our big event of the year is our golf tournament in October. So that's usually at Herman Park. And that'll start. You just go to our website, sightindtosound.org, and you'll see all that there. I don't know the exact date yet, but it's usually in mid late October. And as far as donations, there's a
Mhm.
donation page at our website, and you can put in your credit card information there, and you'll get a letter stating that you gave to our organization for tax purposes. So that's part of the process. And our donations primarily are by corporations, foundations. It's all personal donations. There's no government money. It all comes from the people.
Yeah. One question that keep forgetting to ask you is it seems like you provide reading just for adults. Do you have any readings for children?
If they requested, yes, we don't get that much. All the time I've been there, we get very little. I'm talking less than 10%. It's just, I don't know why. It's just the way it is. And
But you're able to provide
oh,
it.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're doing
Okay.
comic books. So, yeah, we can. We just don't get requests for it.
Okay. Okay. And so teens can also listen to a lot of the readings that you have as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's the
Okay.
usual, everyone, it's health and wealth, entertainment, sports, the usual stuff that's out there.
Sports Illustrated.
Sports Illustrated, People, Entertainment Weekly, Reader's Digest, uh, Time Magazine, National Geographic, Texas Highways.
What about fashion magazines?
We haven't done those in a while. A lot of the magazines are going. A lot of the magazines are going away too. You got to go to the website, and so even our magazines now, we download
Mhm.
those as well. They read from the tablet.
Okay. Okay. Is your service like 24/7?
24/7. Our radio signals 24/7. That's all scheduled. So if I can't go in, I can work from home, which I did today. And then so yeah, 24/7. Call us during the week. We're doing regular business hours. And then if you need a book to be read, or if you want to volunteer, and we'll talk over the phone.
Mhm. Do you ever play music?
Yeah, over our overnight programming, midnight to 6. We have several music programs. We have one where he was a blind musician and he lost his sight. Now he DJs his own music for 2 hours. And he goes back and tells stories about, I was on stage, we did this, blah, blah, blah. I met someone and he'll play a song from them. And then we have another jazz one, traditional jazz, where it's two men and they're both blind and they're just jazz fans. They're older. And they talk about memories of going to shows and just reliving all that, talking about the jazz greats. And then we have one who does retro 1970s, the top 10 this week in the 1970s, a 2 hour show on that. And then we have one, we do old time radio from the 40s and 50s. We have two brothers who are blind, and they replay those shows, the daily serials, the weekly serials, back before television. And then they play old interviews when those people were still alive, and they talk about them. And that's a 2 hour show as well.
Well, I understand that you've been there for a little over 20 years maybe, and that you just enjoy helping people. And so can you share with us maybe a testimonial that just made an impact on you?
From a client, so many volunteers as well. We had one volunteer who he left a few years ago because he got sick. He didn't tell us too much about it, but we knew something was wrong. So he left and he passed away. And then last year his wife passed away, and then they made us one of the money they gave to charity was us, and it was a substantial amount of money. He came in every week and read. We talked a little bit here and there, but he was never. It was just. But this meant everything to him. He enjoyed reading it so much. He was willing to give a good amount of money to that. Clients, I have clients all the time who call and they keep up with them. They'll tell you their life story, whether you want to hear it or not. Sometimes, and it's
Yeah.
always consistent because we're consistent in their lives, the programming. And then you find out they
Yeah.
pass away, and then they'll mention us in their obituary. We read obituaries too in the Chronicle, so sometimes you'll see them like, "Oh, I didn't know they passed away, or she passed away," and then they'll mention us. And please give donations to us. Flowers, and I just give everything to them. And just, it's really enough with the volunteers. I tell people, we see the volunteers once a week, but they see us all the time. That's how they look at it. To us, it's same people every week, but we're part of their lives, coming in to read or listening to us. Like I say, there's a pattern with everyone, a routine, so that show just aired. Okay, he's gonna call and make a comment. It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just like I said, people like consistency.
Yeah. Jim, thank you so much for the great service that you're providing for our blind community. And your organization has made a great impact for so many people for so many years. And thank you for providing such great information for us. And all we need to do is get on the website and volunteer and go read.
Yeah. So
Somebody will really appreciate it.
absolutely. So our general email is info@sightintosound.org. That's info at sightintosound.org.
And your phone number?
Phone number is 713-622-2767.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you all as well for joining me. And please, if you have any comments, send them over my way. And if you have any story ideas, please get in touch.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spotlight Houston, a production of Story Zone Media.